Welcome to the 25th World Congress on Information Technology, WCIT Bangladesh 2021, ICT, the Great Equalizer. This is the first time Bangladesh is hosting WCIT World Congress 2021 ICT, the Great Equalizer, a perfect alignment with the celebrations of the Golden Jubilee of Bangladesh and centennial birth anniversary of the founding father of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. This would not be possible unless it was inspired by the ideal golden vision, father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and led by the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and driven by the dreamer and architect of digital Bangladesh and our Honorable ICT advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. Sajib Wajidjal. With that in mind, I would like to thank you all very much for investing your time with us today. My name is Aleem Abdul, Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer of One Group in Health Systems, New York City, USA. And I'm honored to be the moderator of today's sessions on cyber sovereignty versus cyberspace freedom. Did you know cybercrime is predicted to cost the world $6 trillion annually by end of this year? Also, global cybercrime damage, 16.4 billion per day, 684.9 million per hour, 11 million per minute, 119,000 per second, 190,000 per second. Why? There are 400 attack vectors every 60 seconds, among other components. And the bad actors are outsmarting rest of us. So with that in mind, let me explain the format of what you expect out of today's great panel. I will be introducing our distinguished panel members. I will provide a brief context of today's sessions and set the stage for the session and objective. I will then invite each panel members to provide remarks and perspective on the session's topic from their personal experience. Upon completion of their remarks, I will kick off the conversations and ask a set of questions to each member. At the end of the questions and answer, I will be requesting a short closing statement from each of our panel members. Finally, if time permits, I will provide a closing statement and our sessions. All sessions will be archived and available for months, if not indefinitely, by the host country, our Bangladesh. With that said, let's get started first with the introductions. It's my privilege and honor to introduce you Dr. Joanne Kulsa, Professor, University of Łódź, Poland, and serving as an expert of human rights online for Council of Europe and European Commission. From 2010 until 2018, she served as a member committee chair of the Global Internet Governance Academic Network, GigaNet. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Joanne. Mr. Tarek Barkatullah, Director, National Data Center, BSc in Electrical Engineering from Buet, Bangladesh, and MBA from Dhaka University. Mr. Tarek has 20 plus years of experience in managing operation and IT financial planning and analysis and budgeting. He worked for World Bank, Bangladesh Computer Council, Philips Bangladesh, and more. Please welcome Mr. Tarek Barkatullah. Dr. Vilius Bentis works for NRD Cybersecurity based out of North Europe, Lithuania, where he leads a team of experts to consult and establish cybersecurity incident response team known as CSIRT/SOX for sector government and organization in Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America. He is active contributor and speaker for ISACA Cybersecurity Research. He is industry professor and cybersecurity at Kansas Technology University. I'm honored to welcome Mr. Villiers. Eric Chun is a managing director at Video USA. He leads the firm incident response and cybersecurity service, assisting clients in managing all aspects of cyber threats. He has more than 28 years of investigative experience in law enforcement and security with the FBI and the Pennsylvania State Police. And most recently, he retired after 20 years with the FBI as the chief of FBI Computer Operation Unit, where Mr. Chung managed FBI lawful computer network and phone exploitation operations. Mr. Chung received the FBI Director Awards in 2016 for outstanding science technology achieved for his contributions to law enforcement technology techniques. Mr. Chung is also an attorney and holds a PhD in clinical psychology. Thank you, Mr. Eric, and welcome to WCIT 2021 Bangladesh. With that, next I will provide a brief context of today's session and set the stage for the sessions and objective. We know well that some governments desire to exercise control over the internet within their own border, including political, economical, cultural, and technological objectives, thus extending the concept of sovereignty to include all aspects of the internet. Herein lies the essence of this session on cyber sovereignty versus cyber freedom. Our goal today is to examine state of cyber security around the globe, incident cyber security challenges, solutions, and trend in cybersecurity. Whatever current role in the society that you will take away with something, a new idea, a fresh perspective, a new strategy that you can apply to be more cyber smart, apply in your personal or family life, business, and others, and to the society as a whole. Now, I will invite each panel member to provide remarks and perspective on the session's topic, governance versus cyber sovereignty versus cyberspace freedom in terms of ICT as the equalizer. With that, let me welcome Dr. Joanna Kulsa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Aline, for the kind introduction and for having me as a speaker during this panel. The topic you have chosen for us is really exciting and interesting indeed, whereas at the same time, it does prove a challenge. I am certain we have all seen the headlines heralding the end of the internet, the splinternet coming because of sovereignty concerns. Now, as an international lawyer, let me note sovereignty indeed is a constitutive element of each state. A state, being a state, is indeed sovereign. But at the same time, international law has been built on consensus. States cannot exist alone in the international political, geopolitical space. Therefore, they have committed willingly to an international law framework. This international law, as we understand it in the 21st century, implies that states are willing to offer parts of their sovereignty. They are willing to enter international engagements for their own benefit. And indeed, the internet has proven tremendously beneficial, both when we look at the economic and societal effects. The very fact that we can meet today in cyberspace across borders, me sitting here in Łódź and you sitting there in New York, is one of very clear examples of this benefit. Now, if we want to make sure that we remain the beneficiaries of this global network, we must make sure that we keep working together, possibly agreeing to restrict our sovereign rights. Now, I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. You have invited a wide range of experts with different backgrounds. But to start us off, let me just note that the internet, as we know it today, is a unique sphere of governance. It is governed by what we call the multi-stakeholder model of governance. We have invited three groups of stakeholders, states, businesses, and civil society, to work together jointly on the development of norms, principles, and standards for cyberspace. I would argue that this is the key to internet success. And if we want to see it developed further, we must ensure that this shared benefit supersedes national sovereignty concerns. I'm going to stop here. I'm really excited to hear other panelists speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Giovanna. Next, I will request Eric. Would you please provide your feedback on this topic, please? Thank you.
Thank you. And first of all, I really just want to express my sincere gratitude. It's an honor to be here, to be invited to WCIT, and then especially thanks to our Bangladeshi friends and colleagues for hosting such a prestigious forum this year. This is a real honor for me this year because I know this is a very, very special year honoring the 50th Golden Jubilee of Bangladesh and the 100th year's birth year of your founding fathers. So it's tremendous appreciation for having this honor to be here. And regarding the topic today, I would like to share my decades of experience in applying our esteemed colleague, Dr. Joanna, had just stated, which is to given the context of sovereignty and international laws, and how does that affect the actual criminal activities that's taking place on the internet, and what is the law enforcement perspective when taking into consideration of the laws and the sovereignty that each country exerts, and how does that affect each other? And really looking forward to this opportunity to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Next, I will request Mr. Tariq Barkatullah for his feedback on this topic. Please, thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a little bit of different opinion, like sovereignty and cyber freedom are two different areas. The countries, the cyber freedom and cyberspace sovereignty issue crops up from the preparedness of each of the country. Like for Bangladesh, I don't see there is a much of a cyber awareness and literacy available now compared to the Europe and the North America. So we have to have some control over the cyberspace and also freedom of expression. We have experienced number of activities which are not good for everybody to stay in a country without harming other, but we have seen that some rioting and other thing has come because of this cyberspace freedom. And as you know, our country border is fixed, but our cyberspace is growing quite fast for every country. So they are putting up the laws and the controls based on their requirements. Maybe one day when we will have a cyber literacy and cyber awareness in the country as compared to the Europe or North America. Maybe at that point of time we will have a more relaxed cyber freedom and cyberspace access. But currently we have to have a moderate and controlled freedom, which is growing every year. Like we had some restrictions this year, maybe next year we will have lesser restrictions, and over a period of time we will be as good as any other country currently, like Europe or North America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tariq. I truly appreciate your perspective on this. Dr. Velius, I would appreciate if you can provide your remark and perspective on this session topic, please. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It was very interesting, very introductions, what we just listened to. I want to expand on the very nice start from Joanna and then Eric and then Tariq. Yes, cyberspace is expanding and it has probably extra dimensions where it can expand. But if we look deeper, it's still us humans who live in that space. There's no self-conscious organism, other organisms in cyberspace. It's only humans. And we humans, with all our excellences and deficiencies, as willingness to get rich instantly, willingness to exercise power on other people, and usually other human people, that brings very interesting relations in cyberspace. So I wonder, today in this panel, does the cyberspace makes us better humans? Because probably in order for us to have these freedoms, as Mr. Tariq was mentioning, we need to educate ourselves and grow to a particular level to exercise the cyber sovereignty and cyber freedom properly. But for that one, probably we need to change in the better direction of understanding and using it properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Velius. That segue pretty much our next sessions, which is the Q&A sessions. I will ask a set of questions to each panel member with 3-minute time limits, starting with Dr. Joanna Kulsa. The question is, how can industry work with the government to prevent cyber attack, cybercrime, abuses of data privacy, and child abuse on the web? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aline. That is indeed the crucial question we should ask when thinking about the way states can work together. I'm going to insist on that element of cooperation to ensure that individuals, as Vilius rightfully noted, remain safe online. That is the dominant concern for both states and companies and internet end users. Again, I'm going to look back at the framework that international law has to offer. If I was to give specific indications or specific recommendations for this targeted question, I would say we might want to look at what the Council of Europe has developed with its Budapest Convention, arguably the most efficient international law tool we have till this day on fighting individual cybercrime. But that is not the only international measure that is in place. As already noted, the multi-stakeholder model of governance encourages businesses to work together with states and end users to develop processes, standards, and recommendations. We like to refer to them as policies, to ensure that the bad actors are removed or disabled from doing wrong deeds online. So looking at existing frameworks for collaboration, whether through international law, and I am certain Vilius will discuss the work that ENISA is doing so wonderfully here in Europe and beyond, and looking at informal collaborations we have developed based on the multi-stakeholder model governance we have, like ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, and the standards developed there, could help us better attend to these pressing needs of internet end users. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joanna. So that we're talking about international law. So that takes to my next questions. I would appreciate if Mr. Arek Chong, you can help us understand what are the most pressing problems facing ICT-related international law enforcement agencies. Thanks.
Thank you. From my experience in years, the most difficult part for the FBI and as well as I would assume for all law enforcement agencies across the world is that how to track, locate, and track the actual attackers and cyber criminals once they have perpetrated a crime in your country. Now, the reason for that is two layers. One of them is the anonymization technologies. In the old days, you've heard everybody uses Tor and things like that that can misattribute where their physical locations are at. That in itself is difficult enough to be able to identify that. But nowadays, the problem with that is also, as our colleagues have spoken of, is international laws and sovereignties where not every countries have the same requirements for domain registrations, for the use of servers in their jurisdiction, in their country. So as we all know that there are many IP addresses are favored by cyber criminals coming from certain countries that really just have no records and no way of and they have no collaboration relationship with our country or your country to provide such information to law enforcement. So what that leads to is criminals not only are not fear of being caught, they know that there's not a thing that other countries can do to them because they cannot find them, they cannot initiate any kind of a criminal justice process on them. That is why we are today in 2021 when cyber crimes are so rampant. Even though we may know who are behind them, but we're unable to collect evidence against them or even seeking cooperation of countries to assist us in locating and arresting those criminals.
Thank you, Eric. We all call that is the data. Data is the most precious gold mine in the world currently and in the future too. So my next question is to Mr. Tarek. What is the role of the government in protecting infrastructure and data?
Thank you very much, Mr. Alim. You know that data resides in the infrastructure, and you have heard from others now that the criminals and others are after your data and also after your infrastructure. So the government needs to adapt the international standards like ISO, and there is a standard by ENISA and NISTs. So we have to have a common standards globally so that we are connected and we can seek help from each other in case of infrastructure or the data leakages or leakages. So in this area, government needs to sign with the international convention like Budapest conventions and other conventions so that we can work together and also engage with the public, private and academia together so that we have a common sets of experts available in case of necessity, and that's what the government of Bangladesh believes, and I guess I have looked at the laws and other documents of other countries. Everybody does the same. So we are following the standards set by the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tarek. So we are talking about data, we are talking about cybercrime. So that leads the questions to Dr. Villiers. What are the latest ICT-related developments in fighting cybercrime? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I would start from the point what Joanna was mentioning about the international law. So ICT-related laws are being developed and enhanced, and not only on the paper, but as well understanding how to apply them. And that clearly managing the borders of what is good, what is bad for the criminals, for the nations, as well in defensive and offensive capabilities, as we heard from recent news about actions against ransomware and starting naming some groups as pirates. So number two is understanding that, okay, if there are some pirates which feel that we can do whatever we want, and then we just choose the easiest way to gain the money. And that could be either through technology or through the people. So what the trend is that technology tries to self-defend, detect if something is harming it, and trying to ensure that encryption and identification tokens cannot be stolen. So there's a hardening capabilities being developed and deployed in technologies. That means that more and more focus of attacks is going to happen directly to people, playing with people's brains, playing with people's emotions, and forcing to lose the money. Third area is what relates to what Eric was mentioning, that it's difficult to trace people. However, because the processing of data was enhanced and the traces internet stays, because if somebody wants to do something in remote, then there has to be connectivity, and connectivity leaves the mark. So in physical space, dogs can sniff only a particular amount of traces afterwards, but digital space, it doesn't forget, it remembers. Maybe the data is encrypted, but the fact, the metadata, that there was a communication, and then where similar communications were happening, it's possible. So there's a big advancement in the cooperation between the states and the different organizations to help trace the pirates and find them and locate them. Finally, there's moving forward with unbreakable cryptography. Again, that it works for both sides, for defenders and for offenders. But we still have to recognize that this is the area of development. So thank you.
Thank you, Villiers. I truly appreciate it. So that segue to another questions to our Eric. How did big companies such as Microsoft and SolarWinds have their product compromised and fail to detect it until it's too late? Also, what can government and company do to deal with the cyber threat?
So this conversation, of course, I will try to cover as quickly in a couple of minutes, but it's probably a whole day's worth, because the number one deficiency or reason why even big companies such as Microsoft themselves and SolarWinds themselves, who are cybersecurity powerhouses of the world, they themselves, their products can be compromised, is really due to it's a very complex subject, but the concept is very simple, which is zero-day exploits. 0 days, basically by definition, means that it is so new that even companies themselves, Microsoft themselves, don't even know about it. So there's a vulnerability in breaking into their software and being able to do something with it. Now, not all 0 days are the same, of course. Some of them are very theoretical, academic, and have no practical values other than demonstrating that something can be done or could be done. However, in this particular case with Microsoft and the big name breaches lately, is that not only our adversaries possess 0 days that can actually be used to do a specific bad activity, but they have multiple 0-day exploits that can carry all the way from entering into your system to then basically provide themselves with privilege and then be able to spread it across themselves. So all the traditional defenses are just either not in place or ineffective against 0 days, because by definition, again, 0 days something they didn't know they existed the day before, therefore they cannot defend against it. And that's exactly what happened here. The only good, a little bit of a small good news, I wouldn't call it good news, as the small side to this is that 0-day exploits or the use of it is generally related to nation state attacks. So 99.99% of the cyber crimes that we see that's occurring out there in the real world are just cyber criminals. So the 0-day exploits is not really being used, or they use some old ones that were already patched. So the volume is not there. However, what the concerning part is that if they are used, that's usually a very strong indication it is a nation state level type of attack, or nation state sponsored or approved attacks against that particular company, corporation, or government agency. And this is where a lot of our other conversation, this forum will discuss, which is, again, that sovereignty and the freedom and the laws. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is also the questions of, you talked about ransomware, 0-day, which becoming a big business nowadays, because a lot of people are kind of like a drug business. They're developing 0-day and zero exploits and selling in the dark market. But that also put a lot of burden on the government and the infrastructure, or private company, government company, and threatening their national critical infrastructure, which leads to the questions of the capacity, right? The most important thing of any company is having a capacity. With that, I would like to ask Mr. Tarek, capacity is the key issue in order to handle cyber threat, and capacity development of the government and key industry partners such as telco, financial institution, healthcare provider, law and other agency, among others. What would you be your recommendations and planning, right, to be an awareness on that capacity planning on the government or private sector? Thank you.
Thank you. The first thing is that when you are looking at awareness building, you have to use your local media, print and digital media. They provide access to the information to all the people living in the deep jungle or in a hard to reach area of the country. So everybody watches TV, so that has to go through that. And then coming to that is the awareness, and then the capacity building should start from the schools, and then the people are aware of it, and then when they come to the tertiary education, they can really use their knowledge to create more value-added products for the cyber security. So the whole capability building should start from the village and to the universities above, so that there is a whole chain of people and connected together for building a better capability. And especially if you look at it, the innovation part, if you look at the economy of US, the major earnings come from the innovations and patent and copyright. But if you similarly look at the least developed country or developing country, the innovation is not there. So we have to look at the innovation. We have to make our people use their innovation to build new products, and also use the local product along with the overseas product together for fighting cybercrime. So your capability builds up gradually. It is not possible under any circumstance to have a highly capable country in a year or so, but it takes a decade at least to get everything right. And Bangladesh is going to launch a new cybersecurity strategy where it has put that from 2021 to 2025, we will have 50 PhDs, 100 plus masters in cybersecurity and 250 graduates in cybersecurity, and slowly this capacity will build up. And I guess what I have seen in other countries, it's similar. And the cybersecurity fighting capability is in shortage all over the world. I guess we could have something we can do together, and we will have a clean cyberspace for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tariq Barkatullah. This is an interesting point that you made, which also plays into the multiple initiatives. That leads the questions to Dr. Villiers. All nations are executing their digital agendas in very fast pace. How cybersecurity plays into this initiative, especially when cyber norms are to be the respected.
Thank you for the question. So these digital agendas promise countries better economical prosperity, better success as a sovereign countries. And there, naturally, cybersecurity role is one of the operational security, operationalization of safety of these initiatives. And for them to work, cybersecurity has to be integral part of these initiatives. And what is the objective of cybersecurity there? It's first of all, in order to detect and then to respond to all kinds of cybersecurity incidents. And in order to have that capability, these initiatives have to rely on human skills, processes, as well as automation, an ecosystem of such structures, which are usually called security operating centers, SOCs, and CSIRTs, computer security incident response teams, which should collaborate in the country among all the parts of these digital nation initiatives, as well as internationally, according to international norms and aggregations. And here, as Ms. Joanna was mentioning, that maybe I should mention something about European Union. So I think as European Union is not a single country, but 30 countries, then partnering between the countries on such CERTs and partnering and working jointly and cooperating is a good example how it can be empowered among all the countries in the world, which is happening at probably lower intensity just because
the way for us to benefit from all human rights, or the majority of human rights as we have known them thus far, the right to communication, to ensure that ICTs do work as the great equalizer, is trust. We need to make sure that states work together based on trust. Now, the way
to the audience here, which is that the strategy has to be what we call a comprehensive strategy that accommodates the immediate, medium, and the long-term strategy for Tariq as well as our other audience members here, depending on their own, whether it's a nation or whether it's a company. And that will fail too, especially when we talked about earlier, mentioned about 0 days. 0 days are undetectable. So you just have to assume that IT will fail, cybersecurity will fail. So then the third part is that what is it that you can do knowing that you will fail? So this is where, and you have to ensure that the companies within your country are following them, because you're only as strong as the companies that are within your borders. So that's like really that layer. And really the last, of course there are other layers, but because we're running short on time, I want to say then the very, very last layer
of handling all the securities. So we must ensure global and regional cooperation to make sure that we are working together, we are on the same page in the government, and we can fight the criminals, cyber criminals together.
I have a unified opinion, it's gonna be worse. Then when I'm thinking about my country, usually when cyber criminals areas and physical space and national cooperation, it has to be expanded and tried again to make them work for cyberspace. And second point is that we need to build these tough warriors who can help our countries against pirates. And
sessions. Looks like we have a little bit of time. With that, I will just make a few comments and my closing statement. You know, if we really think, and we think of it when a robber breaks into your house and steal your valuables, you may